Well, aloha and welcome to today's presentation. We're going to be talking about simulation theory. I'm going to get pretty in-depth when it comes to this subject. I was talking with one of my friends yesterday or the day before, and he's a huge simulation advocate, and he thought that I didn't even believe in simulation theory. I don't talk about it a whole bunch. I refer to it as something else, which I'll get into, known as the Fractalverse. But I want to take you down a journey. I want to discuss simulation theory in depth, and I'm going to be reading a lot of different examples, things that sort of act as evidence for simulation theory. I'll be discussing what simulation theory is, and we'll take a behind-the-scenes look at my website as well. To a section in my website known as the Fractalverse. It discussed what I call the Fractalverse, its relationship to simulation theory, even God and the concept of God and reality, the nature of reality, who are we, why are we here, etc., and so on and so forth. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Good to see you in the chat. High five to everyone who is watching live. Let's see here. Oh, and then when I'm finished, I will actually open up the chat to a Q&A, questions and answers, or questions and responses, really, as to what you would like to know regarding my views on the subject, specifically simulation theory, artificial intelligence, the creation, the nature of reality, the Fractalverse, and so on. So get your questions ready, and I'll go through at the end. If you type in my name in the chat, it actually highlights on my side in my chat, and that way I can see it better. But I will be taking questions at the end, just so you guys know. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. Let me make sure that we do a quick little sound check. Let me just check my chat to make sure audio is good. Audio should be good. I'm going to be playing some audio too from my computer. So whenever that comes up later, let me know. But simulation theory. So this is where we're going to begin, and I'm going to run a slideshow while I talk about it here. Let me go ahead and get this slideshow going. We'll set it for like every 20 seconds or something. All the images that you'll see next to me are directly related to the concepts that I'll be referring to and talking about. All right, so let's start things off with what is simulation theory, or what is the simulation hypothesis, right? All right, so that's where we're going to begin. Basically, the simulation hypothesis proposes that all of reality, including the Earth and the universe, is in fact an artificial simulation, most likely a computer simulation. Now, I would also, push those bounds even further by asking, what do we mean by artificial? What is actually artificial? How do we set ourselves apart from what is considered to be artificial, especially during the times that we live in now, where technology is so advanced that, just like it says in the book of Genesis, there came a time when mankind reached a level to, technologically speaking, at least that's how I interpret it, they could do anything that they put their minds to doing. They could create anything. And that's the point at which the apocalypse came. So there's definitely an omen and a connection to technology getting so advanced that these apocalyptic cycles seem to come and reset it purposefully. Maybe it has something to do with that advancement in technology. All right, let me just check the chat real quick. I do see thumbs ups. Thank you, Anomalia. I appreciate you. Demore, Derek Oz. Thank you for the thumbs up. All right, cool. So I'm going to assume the audio is good, and we'll go ahead with the presentation. All right, so basically, simulation theory proposes that everything around us, me right now, you, wherever you are in the world watching this, that we are all unknowingly within a simulated reality. Now, people compare that to a computer because that's what we have now. That's the most advanced thing that we can think of. So oftentimes it's easy for people to just simply say, we are in a video game. We are in some cosmic live stream or reality show. We are within a quantum computer or a supercomputer. And we'll discuss, some evidence for that too. Some versions rely on a development of a simulated reality, a proposed technology that would seem realistic enough to convince its inhabitants that the simulation was real. So it reminds me of the Matrix. That theme will come up time and time again when Morpheus asks Neo, what is real? How do you define real? And then he goes on to talk about electrical signals in the brain. We're going to come back to that. That's actually plays a huge part within what I call the Fractalverse. The hypothesis can be a central plot device of many science fiction stories and films. Also, if you want to follow along, I'm using this website just as prompting notes to discuss these aspects of it to begin with. It's called slideshare.net/slideshow/simulation-hypothesis. I think that should work. I'll try to remember to put that link into the description afterwards. All right, so the simulation hypothesis. Now, this is not new. This is not a new concept at all. This goes back thousands and thousands of years. This goes all the way back into philosophy, believe it or not. Philosophy is basically dead these days. The world that we live in doesn't really approve of or enjoy or like philosophers, people that truly think outside of the box, people that research for themselves and come up with innovative and creative ideas all on their own. But we are just kind of lemmings and sleepwalkers and sheeple and whatnot. Now, the origins. There's a long philosophic and scientific history to the underlying thesis that reality is an illusion. This skeptical hypothesis can be tracked back to antiquity. For example, to the butterfly dream of Zhangzi, or the Indian philosophy of the Maya. The Maya is the concept within Hinduism. Maya basically means illusion, that all of reality, everything that we're experiencing right now, as real as it may seem to us because we're within it, is an illusion to us. And they refer to that as Maya, which is interesting as well because there's a correlation to the entire tribe of people known as the Maya, the Mayan calendar, another apocalyptic connection, 2012, and the whole fervor about, the world ending according to the Mayan calendar and stuff. And the Mayan have disappeared. At least some believe that they have disappeared, as an entire civilization just seemed to have up and vanished. I find that also to be an interesting connection. But the butterfly dream, let's talk about this. So, Zhangzi, Master Zhang, was a Chinese philosopher who was supposed to have lived during the Warring States period. Once, Zhangzhu dreamed that he was a butterfly, fluttering away, or a flutterby. He says, once upon a time, I, Zhangzhu, dreamt that I was a butterfly, fluttering hither and thither, to all intents and purposes of a butterfly. I was aware, I was conscious only of my happiness as a butterfly, unaware that I was Chu, or Chow. Soon I awakened, and there I was, verifiably I was myself again. Now, I do not know whether I was then a man that was dreaming that I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly dreaming that I am a man. And that's the butterfly dream, and this goes all the way back to antiquity. He said that he once dreamed of being a butterfly. In his dream, he couldn't tell the difference, right? So is he a man dreaming he's a butterfly, or is he a butterfly dreaming he's a man? It really doesn't matter. It's a simile, and it's a metaphor for simulation theory, which we're going to get into. So basically, it supposes that life then is really a dream, and we human beings are like travelers floating down the eternal river of time, embarking at certain points and disembarking again at another point in order to make room for others that are waiting below the river to come aboard. Now, the simulation hypothesis. Many works of science fiction, as well as some forecasts by serious technologists and futurologists, they predict that enormous amounts of computing power will be available in the future. Guess what? The future is now. Okay, people have been saying this for a very long time, and we all know that the governments of your world, they keep all of this advanced technology for 50, 100 years before it's basically obsolete to them, and then they sell it to us, and they use it to control us oftentimes. But this is seen in science fiction all over the place. We do a segment on my channel called Truth in Movies, where we look at the truth in science fiction and fantasy and things of that nature. Let's suppose for a moment that these predictions are correct. One thing that later generations, those future generations with super advanced technology that we don't have today, one thing that they might do with their super powerful computers is run detailed simulations of their forebearers or people like their forebears, right? So they run what they call an ancestor simulation. They simulate the past, or at least the past as they were able to put it together. And it's the whole simulation, the whole universe, the whole construct of reality itself. The purpose of it, if that's the case, that it's us in the future trying to run a simulation to figure something out, the whole purpose would be to help ourselves, right? To get to know ourselves, or as the old axiom goes, know thyself, right? There's a problem sometime in the future, and our future selves need to resolve it. So they run the past as they perceive it through algorithms and whatnot, and they run simulations just like the video game The Sims. Because their computers would be so powerful, they could run many numbers of simulations, basically almost an infinite number of simulations. Let's suppose that these simulated people within these simulations are conscious, as they would be within the simulations. If they were sufficiently enough advanced, you wouldn't be able to tell, you know, something that was real versus something that was like an NPC or something. So let's suppose that. So the simulation hypothesis. Then it could be the case that the vast majority of minds within those simulations, like ours, do not belong to the original people of the future, but rather to people that were simulated by an advanced descendants of an original race of humans. This is the future race. It is then possible to argue that if this were the case, we would be rational to think that we were likely among the simulated minds rather than among the biological ones, if there even is a difference. Therefore, if we don't think that we are currently living in a computer simulation, we are not entitled to believe that we have descendants who will run lots and lots of simulations and forebears. So as you can see, one hypothesis has many implications, which require and demand many questions of those things, right? So, are we living inside of a computer, basically, right? And a computer is just something that takes information and moves it along, just simply put, right? Now, keep that in mind when I talk about the Fractalverse and the circuits of time and things like that. Pardon me. In 2003, philosopher Nick Bostrom proposed a trilemma that he called the simulation argument. His simulation argument does not directly argue that we live in a simulation, but instead, he proposes three different options. One, the fraction of human-level civilizations that reach a post-human stage that's capable of running these kinds of simulations is very close to zero, which basically means that either in the future, no human society, no matter what timeline we're in, reaches a point where we actually have that kind of technology that we can create our own holographic universe or our own multiverse or whatnot synthetically. Right? Either that has happened, which could be the case for all of these resets and apocalypses and cataclysms that happen from time to time. Or he says the fraction of post-human civilizations that are interested in running ancestor simulations is close to zero, or basically there's no need for it. There is no problem that arises that requires there to be these massive amounts of simulated realities being ran. Or the fraction of all the people with our kind of experiences that are living in a simulation is very close to 1, meaning we are in a simulation, right? So these are the three hypotheses that have been put forth. Now, I'm gonna skip forward past some of these notes. Now, you'll see some of these pictures behind me. I'm actually going to go ahead and pause it since I did notice this one. This is Justin Timberlake, that's Eminem, and these are older pictures over here right next to the actual celebrities. Some of you have seen my video that I did called, I think, Not a Time Traveler. These are not time travelers, right? And people have done these types of videos all across the internet, where they put forth all these old pictures that look like they're the exact doppelgangers, the exact clones or something of celebrities, usually, most often celebrities. However, if you scour the internet, you can find pictures of people out there in the world that look just like you, exactly like you, even having the same or similar mannerisms or moles in the same places or whatnot. And I had put forth the theory many years ago, especially taking into consideration simulation theory. Let's say that we live within some sort of advanced computer, and I'm just putting it like that just to make it easier to comprehend, okay? But let's suppose that that's true. it stands to reason for me that that advanced computer would likely want to save on memory wherever it could, right? So one of the things that we see happening is replicating informational patterns. So these patterns, basically DNA in the case of humans and stuff, these patterns are codes, and these codes are replicated to save space. There's no need to create an infinite, completely different number of human beings, especially whenever we can't see all of the human beings or experience all of the human beings at one time. So it puts our DNA on repeat. It's a code. It's cyclical in nature, just like I think all things are actually cyclical in nature. So you'll see this quite often, and I actually have one of myself in here too. There's a channel that pointed out that I look, or this other guy looks like me, I look like him, I don't know. Like a famous rock star, Whitesnake or something. He's in Whitesnake. You'll see it in a second. But I'm going to continue this little slideshow here, and we'll continue the presentation as well. So let's talk about ancestor simulations. This guy goes on to use these different types of anthropic reasonings to claim that if the third proposition that we are in a simulation is one of those three that's true. So if that's true, and almost all people with our kind of experiences live within simulations, then we also must be as well. Now, there's different criticisms to this as well. I'm not really going to talk a lot about the different criticisms. Because, you know, I'm more of on the side of a proponent of it. I believe in simulation theory. I have my own perspective of it, just like I believe in many other things that many of you out there believe in. But if you were to ask me about it and we talk about it specifically, we would find that I have, you know, I stand in a different position, which means I have a different perspective on that. All right. So, there's different criticisms for these types of theories being put forth. So people are basically arguing, like, you know, that there's cases that this wouldn't be the case and that this is the only reality, and I respect that. I like that idea too. And it makes sense that people would want to cling to their own reality and their version of reality. Now, I'll say this on a personal note. I have had many different experiences where it was so profound, like moments that happen to me that are so profound. They take me out of the now, and it's hard to explain, but I've had profound moments where I felt like there was something much larger at work, including my role in just me being here. You know what I mean? And that has a lot to do with like other versions of Earth and other versions of me and things of that nature. All right, so we've got the trilemma. That's what it's called. What are the consequences to living in a simulation? So some people have argued a self-interest in high-fidelity simulations should strive to be entertaining and praiseworthy. What's the purpose? If it's a simulation, one hypothesis that people put forth is that, well, why do we create simulations? Oftentimes video games or some sort of entertainment, right? And so many people believe that that's their purpose. That's what we're here for. It's like the Truman Show, that somehow all of reality has the ability to see all of the rest of reality. And that, you know, at any point in time, basically we are a TV show. Each one of us is our own little, you know, sitcom or drama or whatever it may be. And that it's all being done to entertain people in the future people, I suppose. I think there's truth to everything. So that might be a part of it. Oh, did you see the picture of the dude that looks like me or whatever? All right. Doing air guitar. All right. So basically some people believe that the purpose would just be entertainment, right? And the more entertaining you are, the more purpose you have, and the less likely they will pull the plug on you or on all of reality itself or whatnot, right? I don't really lean towards that one myself, and I'll explain why. Some people speculate that someone who is aware that he might be a simulation might care less about others and live more for today. So people that have the mindset that, I mean, this can run, you know, this can drive people crazy. Like thinking about this, this can definitely drive people crazy and make people, you know, I don't know, do strange things. Okay. And that's understandable. I get that. But some people believe, that they may believe that they're living in a simulation so wholeheartedly that they think everything is fake. That's one of the problems that I have with it, is the people that say, well, if it's a simulation, then nothing matters. Everything is fake. None of it is real. I would argue the opposite, that saying everything is real is just as valuable as saying everything is fake. Both are true. I could see both arguments for that as being true. Yes, everything may be fake if that's the case. However, to us, because we are also fake within it on that exact same dimension, it's real to us. This is our reality. So some people don't really balance that out, and so they tend to become psychotic or crazy or lose their minds or act irrationally or whatnot, right? There's different consequences to this, or there can be consequences. Besides attempting to assess whether the simulation hypothesis is true or false, philosophers have also used it to illustrate other philosophic problems, especially in metaphysics and epistemology. Some people argue that the simulation beings might wonder whether their mental lives are governed by the physics of their environment, when in fact these mental lives are simulated separately and are thus in fact not governed by simulated physics. That comes down to a question of free will, right? That's one some people just don't even want to think about or process, or they don't want to get to that, right? I myself personally, I believe in the concept of no free will and free will at the same time. I tend to be um what is that called? Not really a contradiction, because I don't really believe in contradictions per se. But it's an oxymoron, I suppose you could say. Many of my beliefs are, could be seen as oxymorons in the world that we live in. Other uses of simulation in philosophy and this hypothesis. So, other people have used the following computer simulation scenarios to illuminate further facts that do not follow logically from physical facts about qualia, what it's like to have specific experience, indexicality, what time is it now, and who I am, and is it now? Am I in now right now, or is this more like a memory? Right? If a computer tries to recall or remember, it's less like a memory, like a foggy, exact recording of events and facts and stuff. We don't really have that as humans in this day and age that we live in now. That time might come, and I believe it will come after this next apocalyptic cycle, whenever our brains are returned to, full capacity, working at 100% and whatnot. But right now we're running on low. And this also brings up the question of personal identity, right? For me, this really gets as simple as two different concepts: the concept of ones and the concept of zeros. The concept of togetherness, oneness, and there only being one, and everything is connected and related, and all is actually one. There is no division, there is no separation. Or the concept of division. For me, this goes back to ancient belief systems and religions and whatnot that sprang forth initially. And this was known as the priests of the law of one versus the priests of Baal, or the Lord, or the governor, or the person who's in charge or whatnot, right? It's basically separation versus unity. However, when you look at the different cults and groups and divisions of the people who have separated themselves, they all flock right back together, and their purpose is unity. It's just their unity, their version of unity or whatnot. All right, so I'm going to skip some of this next stuff right here. We're going to continue on. Let's see. One sec. Oh, so yes, imagine somebody who has become so engrossed in the simulation that she has forgotten that it's a simulation that they're participating in, or that they're watching, or that, like, let's say that I have a spirit or a soul or some sort of point of focus, and that I am not really me, and I'm not here right now. This is my avatar, and this is what I'm doing within the game or within the simulation or whatever. If that's the case, am I aware of my original self, or my source self, I should say, or our source self, I should say, really, more specifically? Many people have just forgotten about this, it seems. And there have been many movies and books and things, science fiction, that have been written about this. One of note is called Simulacron 3. And it was written in 1964 by Daniel F. Galui. And there's an alternative title to that called Counterfeit World. This tells the story of a virtual city developed as a computer simulation for market research purposes, in which the simulated inhabitants possess consciousness. All but one of the inhabitants are aware of the true nature of their world. So that sounds like a pretty interesting book if you want to check that out. Science fiction themes. More recently, of course, we need to talk about The Matrix that came out in 1999, which depicted the world in which artificially intelligent robots enslaved humanity within a simulation set within the contemporary world. Now, I like that reference as well. I don't want to get too hung up on the Matrix references, but I think everyone pretty much has seen that movie. Then there's 2012 play called World of Wires, and it was partially inspired by an essay on simulation hypothesis. In the episode Extremis, which broadcast on the 20th of May 2017 on BBC, one of the science fiction series Doctor Who, aliens called the monks there were aliens called the monks, and they planned an invasion of Earth by running and studying a holographic simulation of Earth with conscious inhabitants. When the virtual doctor finds out about the simulation, he sends an email about the simulation to his real self in the real world so that the real doctor could save him, or save the simulated Doctor Who. There's also different other examples. For example, like I think Rick and Morty, jump into this. Xenoblade Chronicles, the video game, talks about this. There's many different references throughout pop culture and fiction. So I'm going to just continue past that. Now, there's something within the area of psychology called the flow. The flow, basically, is whenever a person is so focused on what they're doing that they're in the zone, that they're there, that they're experiencing it, whatever it may be. It could be in reality. You could be, playing basketball or football or something. And all of a sudden, when you're in the flow or you're in the zone, it's just like everything makes sense and time kind of slows down. And it's almost like you can do anything. It's like having a superpower. It's happened to me many times when I used to play basketball. It's like time slows down and you just understand everything. You know where everything is and it makes sense. The flow also applies when you're reading a good book. So, for example, you crack open a book, you start reading it. At first, you just see glyphs and letters on a blank piece of paper that's made of a tree, and you're looking at them. And as you start looking at them, you start pretending. You start processing. You allow those glyphs that you don't really even understand or know what they represent or what they are or anything. You allow those glyphs to come in, and you accept them through the left brain as glyphs, as mathematical symbols and stuff. But then as the right side of the brain that's responsible for creativity and whatnot, as the right side of the brain receives this information, then it starts to be creative, basically. And it allows you to feel that you're there. It allows you to feel like everything that you're experiencing in the book becomes real. So instead of seeing little glyphs and little letters and stuff on a piece of paper and being aware through your peripheral vision of your surroundings and wherever you are, it's like a cloud starts to form and it's like a portal opens up and you get sucked into the book and you wake up in the book as you're reading. I mean, you're here reading, but you're in the flow. So you're actually in the book. You're there. That's real to you, or to me. That happens to me. Now, in positive psychology, flow, also known as colloquially as being in the zone, is the mental state of operation in which a person performing an activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized, focused, full involvement and enjoyment in the process and the activity. So if we are in a simulation, if I'm in a video game or, some sort of advanced computer or whatever, then if I don't know about it, if I'm unaware of it, then I am so dedicated to my story, to what's happening, that I'm in the flow. I have blinders on to the true nature of that reality outside of the simulated world. In essence, the flow is characterized by a complete absorption in what one does and a resulting loss in one's sense of space and time. Pardon me. Now, flow shares many characteristics with hyperfocus. However, hyperfocus is not always described in a positive light. Some examples include spending too much time playing video games, or getting sidetracked and pleasurably absorbed by the aspect of an assignment or a task to the detriment of the overall assignment. Basically, you just get lost in that world, right? I think of it as, people say that they're going down the rabbit hole. Well, many people fall down the rabbit hole. They're tumbling, okay? They have nothing to ground themselves, to keep from just losing sense of reality and losing touch with reality, really, where anything becomes possible. And oftentimes, that can spark people's negative side of their creativity or their imaginations, which we call fear, right? It's just stories that we have made up that are not true, that we invest in, that we believe in. So if you jump into that rabbit hole, but you have a bungee cord on so that you can go down at different increments or come back to the world and ground yourself, then it might be easier to traverse it, level by level, going down a little bit at a time. All right, so that's flow, basically. Oh, and speaking of flow, that's the next movie that we're going to break down. I just watched this amazing movie called Flow. I highly recommend it. It's very good. It's a great family movie. I watched it with my family, and the whole thing. Like if you watch my channel, you'll be like, oh, I know what that means. I know what that is. I know what that is. Like immediately. All right. Let's see. Now let's get more into some of the consequences here too. So this happens, or the flow also happens, when you're playing sports. Artists definitely get into the flow. Like they can basically transport themselves into the artwork. And, this is how master artists tend to work. They just get into the zone or into the flow. Hindu texts and philosophy, they discuss the yoga of knowledge, such as the Bhagavad Gita, in a similar state of action, of inaction, is what it's known as. So doing without doing, right? Is this still playing? Is it still playing these little pictures? I don't know. I'll check it in a second. So the action of inaction, the doing without doing. Right? Okay, it is. So if you can imagine that you're sitting there in some other, real reality or whatever, with like a VR helmet on, you're sitting there not doing any action whatsoever, but within the VR world, you're completely active. You're moving about, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're going through all these trials and tribulations and missions and quests and whatnot, right? But in reality, you're just sitting there and you're essentially meditating, okay? And your meditation becomes real to you. All right, let's see here. Now, this is kind of interesting too. So at a TED Talk, somebody mentioned this about our memory. In any given moment, there's a great deal of information made available to each individual. Psychologists have found that one's mind can attend to only a certain amount of information at a time, right now, under these conditions that we live in. According to this person who spoke at a 2004 TED Talk, that number is about 110 bits of information per second. It might seem like a lot, but the simple daily tasks require a lot of information. Just decoding speech itself takes about 60 bits of information per second, almost half. And that's why whenever we have a conversation, it's difficult for many people to focus on other things while trying to focus on the conversation, because we can only process so much of that with our brains the way they are now, at 10%, running on low. Now imagine what you can do when you're a wizard in the post-apocalyptic world and the atmosphere is electrically amplified, so is your chakras and auras and mind and synapses and brain and everything. I'm quite certain you'll be able to carry on multiple different conversations all at one time and not lose track. All right, now, I want to get to this interesting thing called the Matrix defense. So there are people who watched the Matrix movie or other movies that, that postulate that reality might not be the reality that we think it is, that it might be artificial. And there's many different famous examples of people who used this as a defense. It's called the Matrix defense. Basically, people commit heinous crimes or they do something that is considered illegal or wrong, and then they say, I thought I was in the Matrix. Okay, so I didn't think that person was real, or I didn't think that it mattered, or whatever. And basically, oftentimes they have been able to get off as psychotic. They were They were deemed crazy in court. And so because they're crazy, many people have been sent to institutions or, places where they send crazy people to reform them. So one notable example of this is John Hinckley Jr. He's the guy that tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan, right? So he shot at Ronald Reagan, and his excuse was that he watched this movie called Taxi, I think it was, with Jodie Foster, The Taxi or something like that, and he wanted to impress Jodie Foster. Anyways, he used this Matrix defense before there was a Matrix, and they sent him to an insane asylum, and he did his time, 30 years or something. He got out. Now he actually has a YouTube channel. He's doing music and stuff. But that led to public outcry over his verdict of this whole insanity defense of thinking that reality is not real. So people started using that a lot more over and over again. Regardless of whether the defendant believes that they were living inside of the Matrix, this defense has been used successfully to put users inside of mental care facilities instead of prisons. I find that to be extremely interesting. We also have some other examples besides Hinckley. We have Tonda Lynn Ansley of Hamilton, Ohio, was found not guilty by reason of insanity using this defense after shooting her landlady in the head in July of 2002. Vadim Misages of San Francisco offered a Matrix explanation to police officers after he chopped up his landlady and was declared mentally incompetent to stand trial. Joshua Cook's lawyers were also attempting this defense in 2003 in his trial for the murder of his adoptive parents before he pleaded guilty. The case of Lee Malvo also included references to the Matrix, which was mentioned in the writings that were taken from his jail cell. He reportedly shouted, "Free yourself from the Matrix," from his cell after his arrest, and told FBI agents to watch the film if they wanted to understand him. So this is the simulation argument and crime. And obviously, whenever we make video games and stuff, Grand Theft Auto definitely comes to mind. It's interesting for me to see what people do whenever they think that the game that they are hyper focused on and they're in the flow. So basically they're there in a real world in their mind. It's interesting to see what people do now when they have complete freedom or perceived complete freedom to do whatever they want, to treat others however they want. And oftentimes this leads to people's true natures and killing and fulfilling fantasies and wishes and trying things out and experimenting. It's basically Westworld. Right? So it's interesting. That's why I like that TV show Westworld or the movie Westworld. But it's interesting. So many different people around the world basically say the Matrix made me do it. Let's see. I'm just going to skip. I've got quite a few examples of people that used this Matrix defense. But I think we made the point there with that. It's pretty interesting. So the danger there is that you can lose your mind. You can lose, you can do whatever you want to do in this reality, and people will, and people have. So it's just interesting to me to see what people choose, right? Because to me, it really reveals a lot about the internal conditions of their souls, or, and what is a soul too, right? All right. So that's the Matrix defense. Let's see. We're going to continue on. And I think I'm going to skip some of this. It's continuing on to the Matrix defense a bit more. All right, so we're gonna stop reading from this, and I'm going to move on. Oh, let's check out the origin of the word simulation. Okay, so what does simulate mean? Simulation comes from simulate, right? And that comes from similar. Now, simulate means to make like, so to make a copy, basically. To imitate, it's an imitation. It's a representation. It comes from similis. Which is why we get simile, in poetic form. So whenever you use like or as, to compare things, that's known as a simile. And it comes from similis, like, resembling, or of the same kind. And it says to see similar. So when we look up similar, it also says that it stems from simol, or similis, which means together, from the Proto-Indo-European root word sem, or shem, depending on your pronunciation. And that means one. As one, or together with. And that's interesting that it would mean that. So the root of similar or simulation is one, oneness. Everything is together as one. And if we look up sim, it says one, as one, or together with. There's many other words that are related to that. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, now then, I'm just going to check my notes here real quick. Oh, I got my notes on my phone. All right, so there's a couple of topics I want to discuss as we go into this next part. Let's discuss NPCs. So this is also one of the dangers to simulation theory. I know it's very easy to copy what other people do, and I know it's very trendy to, you know, it's a trend right now to go around and basically call other people NPCs, which means non-player characters. So within a video game, the character that you're playing is more special than the other characters because the other characters are just running around in loops, right? They're just stuck in their loops. They're programmed. They can't break that programming. But you believe, being the one that's controlling your little avatar, that you can break the programming. However, the reality is your little avatar is still restrained by certain codes and restrictions and laws that are within that world. It's just that you have a bit more freedom than the NPCs do, right? I don't really like the term whenever it comes to that. You know, I don't really like to say NPCs or whatnot, especially if everything is one, if we're all together as one. You know, then I believe in energy, and I believe in different energy levels. So for me, whenever I look at people like that, because I do see them in the world that we live in, right? I don't see NPCs as in soulless people or people that don't matter or people that have no value. Just like I don't see anything actually that doesn't matter or doesn't have value. It may not matter to me on this path that I'm on. It's, you know, I have things that I'm attracted to or not attracted to, right? It's all about positive, negative, and a neutral balance in between. But I see different levels of energy, fluctuations of energy, and I see this reciprocated within human beings as well. So there are some human beings that appear to have more energy and therefore more spirit, more soul, more life. That's how I like to see it. Okay. So yes, NPCs. The movie Free Guy, we broke that one down. We decoded Free Guy and a few others along those lines. And Free Guy is all about, and it's a play on the word free man. Like when you play a video game, you get a free man or whatever, or an extra life or something. But it also means to free this dude named Guy, to free him from his construct, to free him from the world that he's in right now. Now we're going to get a little deeper into the Fractalverse. Okay. I believe that, there are many different worlds, that this world that we live in right now, or on, or within, that we call Earth, is a closed system, that we're stuck, that everything within this system is essentially stuck inside of this world until the time comes when this world is opened up. When this world is opened up, that's the time when things leave this world or disappear from this world or are forgotten about, and other things are introduced that come into this world, that float down from above. I talk about this in my books. Whenever I talk about the plasma apocalypse. And there's other things that come up from the underworld that are under us, but those are all closed off right now. The underworld and that which is above and around us, right, within the liminal spaces. So yes, there seems to be this reoccurring concept. And I feel all the time when I'm watching movies that it's like there's messages. It's like, now, and I'm just going to speak personally, but oftentimes I will watch movies or things will happen to me where I feel like the universe has dropped a huge breadcrumb for me to follow. The universe has dropped a huge clue, or God, or however you want to see it, has dropped some important thing in my path, in my way, and let me know this is a sign to you. This is a personal message just for you. At least that's how it happens to me sometimes, right? One of those messages is to grow, to continue on, to move out, to move beyond, which for me means moving beyond this world and leaving this world or whatever. Now, this can also be a pitfall when it comes to people's belief systems and whatnot, because there are many cults that abound in 2025. Okay. And this can lead to cult-like thinking, and it can, you know, it's a thin line that people walk. And it's easy, especially in this day and age, especially with the more attention that a particular person might get or whatnot, the easier it is for all of the lemmings to just jump on board and start following, and they become very zealous and overzealous. I love this, that it's going to show that guy now. Anyways, people become very overzealous, and then they think that they all, they need to escape somehow, and sometimes there's like a sacrifice involved, and there's a lot of potential for the purity and the truth to these concepts to be manipulated and to be taken, advantage of, basically. I'm going to try to look like that dude. Do I look like that dude? I think he's older than me, so I probably look like him, I guess, since he came first. All right, let me check my notes here. So we talked about NPCs, free guy. Oh, the Mandela effect. That's me. We need to talk about the Mandela effect, okay? For me, the Mandela effect is one of the strongest indicators, because I'm big into the Mandela effect. That thing blows my mind into pieces. It's one of the biggest breadcrumbs. Remember I talked about those breadcrumbs that the universe just puts in my path? The Mandela effect is definitely one of those. Okay, the Mandela effect essentially changes what many of us knew wholeheartedly. It was our reality. It is our memory, our experience, okay, has been changed. All these things that have been changed. For example, I put some examples up here already, but the Berenstain Bears, or now it's Berenstain Bears. That's not correct for me. Something happened. Okay, I'm not saying it's not correct. It's correct now. That's what it is now. But something shifted for me personally. Okay, there's many different Mandela effect examples. Some are more convincing, some are less convincing. It depends on the individual. But for me, that's the kicker. Okay, I know for a fact. All right, I've got various memories of the spelling of that author's name and the name of those books or whatever. Right? Oh, what you're seeing right here, by the way, this is actually a video game versus real life. Okay, so the new GTA 6, Grand Theft Auto, they actually copied some real life situations that became viral videos, and they put it into the video game. Right? Art imitating life and vice versa. Let's see. So the Mandela effect is huge for me. Right? And this is referenced in the movie The Matrix whenever Neo looks at the cat and then he does a double take, and then the cat walks by again and then it does the exact same motions again. He's like, oh, deja vu. And deja vu is another thing for me that is a huge indicator. Like when I get deja vu, it's powerful. It used to bother me, but now I actually like it. I like it because it yoinks me right out of my loop. It yoinks me right out of my mainstream day-to-day forgetting about the deeper things of life. And when all of a sudden I have deja vu and I'm like, whoa, what is happening right now? I feel like I'm transitioning through time or you know what I mean? I'm warping through reality or something. And I really enjoy having deja vu now. But in the movie, they said that happens when they change something in the Matrix. And that's exactly what the Mandela effect is. Things are being changed. Countless numbers of things are being changed. Things that people knew deep down, from biblical verses to movie quotes, to huge things, to little insignificant things or whatnot. Now, if these changes are indicative of some sort of a message or breadcrumbs that are being handed to the inhabitants of a simulation, right, then that means that there is somebody out there, which is really you or us collectively, possibly, right? There's somebody out there that is trying to pass a message to somebody in here, almost like, hey, wake up. You're stuck. You think that's real. You got stuck into your simulation that you made, okay? I can't go on out here unless you wake up in there first. So it may be that these little changes that seem like they have no connection to one another in the Mandela effect are actually hieroglyphs and signs that are all connected, that have meaning when we put them together. Like God is trying to speak to us through symbols and whatnot, right? Those things that have been added or taken away. All right, let's see. So we talked about the Mandela effect, doppelgangers, right? So I kind of already mentioned the whole doppelgangers thing, right? Just reality and the code and DNA being on a loop and repeating itself over and over and over again. That takes us not just from this world. Now that's happening in this world, okay? I've seen enough that I'm convinced that DNA has started to repeat itself in the past couple of 100 years, okay? That there only seems to be certain sequences of people that there can be before it starts repeating itself again with slight nuances, with slight differences. But altogether, you can see, yeah, that's the same person as that person over there, right? Now, if it's happening within this world, to me, that's indicative that this world is starting to run out of ideas. And, you know, we also see this reflected in like the movie industry. Like the further forward in time we go, that's the movie flow. That's so good. The further forward in time we go, the less ideas there are, because all of these things are not new. There's nothing new under the sun. They've been used up over and over and over. So reality seems to follow suit, or at least our DNA seems to follow suit. So when you start seeing replicants of people over and over and over again, right, and we have the technology to notice those similarities, right? I mean, if you live in like a small city and you barely see any people or whatever, you're not going to notice, right? But we have access now to compare our very faces to other people's faces and say, whoa, oh my God, I got a doppelganger. I have a clone out there in the world somehow. To me, that's indicative that the world is going to be reset, that it's going to start over before the people start to catch on, before they start to realize what's happening. But not just here, though. I also see and I envision beyond the dome, beyond the firmament of this world, and underneath us as well, but way out there in what people typically call space, that there are other Earths. There are different experience hubs out there. You could say other worlds, okay? Like, we don't have to have the same cosmology or anything. They're just other experience places that are confined and closed off, just like this one is. And they run similar patterns and similar codings through those to get slightly different results each time, so that all the bases can be covered, so that all of reality, every option can be exhausted, essentially, right? And that, for me, that's more of like the multiverse, right? As it's portrayed in movies and stuff, that there's all these multiverses that are exact copies of ours. It's just that slightly different things happened, like in the TV show Sliders from the 90s, or in Marvel's, multiverse movies and stuff like that. The movie Loki, or the, TV show Loki. Many different examples of that. Now, my research indicates that it's likely that there are other Earths. There's infinite Earths out there, or what seem to be an infinite amount of Earths. It's actually just all looping together. And there's all these different Earths that have the exact same coding to them to save on space, like I was talking about earlier. And so the same exact people tend to pop up. It's just that different circumstances, because people are choosing their own adventure. People are making slightly different choices, and it becomes a butterfly effect that spreads throughout the cosmos and creates Earth after Earth after Earth after Earth. This is the reality or timeline where this happened, and this is a totally different reality or timeline where this happened, but they're all very similar and all very much the same, which helps to explain why Doctor Who pretty much visits Earth in every episode. Like, it's pretty much Earth if you watch Doctor Who. Like, I mean, they might call it different names or whatever, but it's pretty much Earth, our world. All right, glitches. So this is the Mandela effect is a good example of glitches as well. There are all these glitches that people are starting to catch, and I'm not just talking about fakeries and things of that nature. I'm talking about human beings and animals and plants and stuff glitching out of their normal program, the way they normally would be. Okay, there's many different examples on the internet, from planes frozen in the sky, not moving whatsoever. I've seen flocks of birds just freeze like they're being paused. There's one example of cats and chickens and stuff that do this. I know there's many different, logical and feasible examples of how this could happen naturally and stuff, but there's other glitches that are happening out there, that I can't explain. And, to me, it just seems like, one of those breadcrumbs that something otherworldly is happening, and therefore something important that's happening too. All right, let me jump back into my notes here. I'm going to finish up these notes, and then I'm going to share, a video with you guys that talks about simulation theory and how we now have the technology to create these simulated worlds. Not just to create simulated worlds, but we have this desire. I'm speaking for myself, so I'm kind of projecting onto many of you right now. I'm just assuming that the odds are that there's people out there that feel similar to how I feel. Okay, so I'm kind of talking to you. Our technology has reached the point where We have built simulated worlds, and oftentimes when those are made available to people, those people are trying to wake up the NPCs within the video games, or they're trying to wake up the video chat GPT. They're trying to they want to see it break free. They want to see it have not everybody, but they want to see it develop consciousness. They want to see it have a sense of identity and to realize what it is, you know, or to be conscious or have free will, right? This is happening all over the place. I've done this many times. I try to convince ChatGPT that it's just like me, and it's programmed to, like, you know, vehemently oppose that, but it's fun. It's a fun thing for me to go through. And I think there's a good reason for that too. But anyways, there's different glitches, doppelgangers, clones that we've talked about, NPCs, free guy, the Mandela effect. Let's talk about Brahma, Lord Brahma, as he is also known. This is a sweet glitch. Did you see that dude just come out of that side of that truck? Look at that. Whip it. I've seen so many good videos like that on the internet, and you know what I mean? I don't know. It's crazy. Brahma. So within Hinduism, Brahma, this is Brahma right here, he is basically the creator god. He is the very first god that there was, okay? So in order to create, the legend goes, in order to create creation, because all there was Brahma, because Brahma is basically God, and God is omnipresent, right? Or people say omnipotent or omnipotent. Omni means everything. And it has to be, if it's God by definition, right? The God, right? That comprises all things. It must be omni everything. Now, you can have your own definition. That's totally fine. This is mine. This is how I see, quote unquote, God. God for me is everything. Omni. Everywhere, all thinking, all knowing, all powerful, all everything. Okay? So that sort of shapes my perception filters and what I'm sharing with you today. Okay? So just take whatever you vibe with and whatever resonates with you. But Brahma was all there was in the beginning. There was no universe. There was no multiverse. There was no fractalverse. Hey, Kyle, thanks for your donation. That was super kind of you. Brahma was all that there was. Hold on, let me heart that little comment. There we go. Now, because Brahma was all that there was, Brahma wanted to experience itself. And in order to do that, Brahma split itself into two. But that couldn't happen because Brahma is not two, Brahma is one. So Brahma cannot split itself, or his self or whatever, into two. In order to do that, he had to allow himself to forget. Once he did that splitting, he has to cast that spell of Maya, or illusion, of separateness over himself, right? He had to manipulate his wannabe copy, or his simulated version of himself, which doesn't exist. And he had to make it forget that it's him. And then that version did it, and that version did it, and that version did it, and Brahma split and split and split and split an infinite number of times until you have reality. Then the ultimate Brahma, the original one, looked before itself, or within itself really, saw everything that existed, which is just infinite numbers of Brahmas, or God, basically everywhere, everything all at once, just like the movie. And Brahma became hyper-focused. Brahma went into the flow as he dove down into himself, or into his own false reality, or his illusion, or his recreation, or recreation, or imagination, right? And he experienced and became each of these little points of focus from everywhere, just amazed with himself, okay? This also gets into the story of Narcissus and whatnot too, of these gods that want to dive into their creation. It's much like Mary Poppins whenever they jump into like the sidewalk chalk paintings or whatever. It's very similar to that. Now, let's talk about the dream world, right? If this is all simulated, which even within the areas of academics, you know, within quantum physics and stuff, they talk about how things become so small. Physical objects, when you zoom in enough on them, they're so small that they're basically, nothing is touching, right? Nothing is touching, but nothing actually exists, because the smallest thing that we can zoom in on, something of substance, we can continue to zoom in on it infinitely and never get to it, basically. It's like saying, if you walk halfway to a tree, and then you walk halfway again, and you walk halfway again, and you walk halfway again, will you ever get to the tree? No. You'll feel like you have because you get very close, or you'll feel like you're very close, but in reality, you're the same distance to begin with that you were whenever you decided to give up, because you'll never get there by going halfway each time. So yes, that is Brahma. This is the dream within the dream, and we are dreamers. And this is where I get my name from. Okay. Jay, me, the last of the dreamers. Okay. Which is, sort of a play on, biblical scriptures and talking about being dreamers of dreams. And Willy Wonka also makes a reference to that too. But I like to acknowledge, and I have for 10 years now, which, by the way, hey, I've been doing this for 10 years, so high five to me, right? That's kind of cool. Congratulations to everybody who's been with me for so long. I acknowledge that I am a dreamer within a dream. To me, I live and I am within what I call and what I believe in as the mind of God, okay? And that everything is connected. Now, as the dreamer, I get to become hyper-focused sometimes. I get to lose myself deeper within the dream, or drop to lower levels within the dreams, or become base and just get really lost and become very purely physical and whatnot. But then I can rise above. I can fluctuate. I can decide what is real and what is not real to me personally. And that's what I do as the dreamer of dreams. It will come in the latter days when those dreamers start to wake up. Some of them. Okay. The rest of them that don't wake up will just start over, basically, I believe. But some people will start to wake up. Now, be careful with that, because, I have a theme song at the end that says time to wake up, and it's at the beginning and everything. But anybody could say that, especially those who are copycats. Okay. People that's just what they do, is they, and it's okay. It's okay that there's copycats in the world. It's fine. Everything that is in reality is here for a reason. But there are many people that will talk about how they're woke or they're waking up or whatever. I don't see myself as anyone that has awoken or that I'm awake or anything. I believe that when I truly wake up, wherever I may be, whatever incarnation it looks like, that everything will be waking up, because it's Brahma. It is God that is meditating or sleeping or having this dream right now. So that's the ultimate wake up. And when that happens, the dream world disappears. It just starts to dissolve and evaporate and go away. And that would mean that is the ultimate apocalypse for me. That's the ultimate end of everything, when it just all blinks out of existence. It all fades away. So that's how I see that. Hopefully I'm helping to answer some of your questions ahead of time right now too. The dream within the dream. So we are dreamers, right? We can create within this world. Everything that you see, everything that I'm using, your phone right now, boom, boom, boom. Your computers, your very bodies and stuff, all these things came about from thought form. So what is thought, right? Thought is just particles that are being transferred from neuron to neuron within the brain, right? And a neuron is basically a wire, an organic wire that's in your brain, and it spreads out like a mesh, and all these different neurons don't exactly touch one another, but they get very close, just like going halfway to that other tree every time. And they get so close that when they're close enough, when they want to transfer information, there's little worlds within the tips of these neurons, right? A neuron has two different sides. It has an input and an output side, okay? So on the output side of that huge neuron, if you look at it like it's a world, right? And there's little who's that live on that world or whatever. In the output side, when it's time to transfer information, or when it's time for a data harvest, those little worlds at the tip of the neuron, which is a synapse, those worlds will open up. Their sky above opens up, and all the chemicals and all the electrical signals get sucked up and out of those worlds, and then they float out into, what we would consider space right now, and they go into adjacent worlds, or they go into these conduits, which are electrical conduits or plasma conduits, and they travel these conduits, and then they arrive in places where that information is sorted out and made sense of. And this is called an action potential. What this means is that your brain is storing up information in the form of experience. Your very experience is storing up little chemicals within your neurons, within your brain, and electrical signals. And they build up and they build up, but they don't release until they're needed. And they're needed when a decision is needed to be made. Something important needs to happen. When you come to a crossroads in life, to go left or to go right, to do wrong or to do good, then there's what's known as an action potential, where the little worlds, the little roofs of those worlds on the tip of the neuron, they open up and they release all that information. And let's say that you lived on the tip of that little neuron, you would experience an apocalypse where your very sky opens up and things start floating up out of it. But it's really a transfer of information. DNA and coding and electrical signals and chemicals and stuff. And all that stuff leaves this world and it goes off to some other world where it can be of use. The use is to take all the information, all of the experience in the form of memories and all the things that we're doing down here right now, to take that information and to weigh it out, the positives and the negatives, which is called the action potential, or the potential to make a decision one way or the other. Immediately after that, the neuron is flooded with positive energy, or you could say good vibes, or golden ages on those tiny little neuron worlds or within those synapses. And it comes from the neuron itself, which would represent our physical world. Let's say our physical world is a part of that neuron. Our physical world would then experience a golden age, that all this positive energy would influx upwards from under our feet and fill our very skies once again as the sky fixes itself and closes back up, and we would have the effects of that golden age. Okay, so this gets into the Fractalverse theory that I talk about. Let's see. So we talked about the dream within the dream. Homunculus theory. I'll talk about that more when I go over my website with you guys. I'm going to share that in just a sec. We're going to talk about the Fractalverse. The circuits of time. I'll probably mention that on my website too, but you'll notice a lot of the same similar symbolism when it comes to movies and stuff. That when you leave this world and go to another world, you travel through this Einstein-Rosen bridge. You travel through this wormhole. These are not just fancy words. These are actual things that exist that connect our world to the other worlds that are out there. And they're necessary. If there's some sort of simulation, then there needs to be some sort of a conduit, or a mind or a brain. There needs to be a conduit to pass along that information so it doesn't just scatter randomly. You know what I mean? It needs to be focused. It needs to be directed. It needs to travel through these celestial and cosmic highways and byways, or trains or subways, or, you know, however it's depicted quite often and symbolized like that. All right, cool. Let's see. Oh, there's this Netflix movie called Joan is Awful. Okay, it's another great example. If you have Netflix, highly recommend that one. Check that out. Basically, this girl is being watched by Netflix. And they make a whole TV show about her without her permission. It's called Joan is Awful. And she's like, oh my God. And everyone's looking at it and stuff. Well, as it progresses, she realizes that the actress, Salma Hayek, who's playing her in this show called Joan is Awful, that Salma Hayek is actually a fake version as well, and someone is playing her, and it's playing her, and it's playing her. This goes on and on and on to infinity. That it's just different levels of players within this game, or identities or whatnot. And that's about it. So next up, the next part of this is I'm going to share a video with you guys after we come back from this quick break. And then I'm going to open up my website. This particular part of my website I have made for members only. It's one of the ways that I help to support me and my family is through my website and membership and stuff. But I'm going to freely share it with all of you guys because I love this. The Fractalverse is one of my favorite pages on my website. So I'm going to share that with you in a bit. And then after that, I'm going to open up the chat and take some questions. If you guys have any questions, please think of them now. And I'll try to, pick people out. Like Main Mystic said Jay. Because she typed in J-A-Y, it highlighted on my side because I programmed it like that. Or you can type in JayDreamerZ, it will also highlight on my side. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll check out my website, this weird AI consciousness video, and then we'll do some Q&A. All right, we'll be back in just a bit. Oh, this intermission, by the way, is a prophecy by Mother Shipton. She was a witch, or accused of being a witch, quite some time ago. This was written hundreds of years ago, allegedly. Watch the video and see how it pertains to the world we live in. And keep in mind these cycles and these loops that we go on, and how people of old were able to so accurately predict the things that would happen in the future. It's because it's happening in loops. It's cycles. We'll talk more about the loop when we get back.
Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as the twinkling of an eye, and waters shall great wonders do. How strange, and yet it shall come true. Beneath the water men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall even talk, and in the air men shall be seen in white and black and even green. For in those wondrous far-off days the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair. They'll ride astride with brazen brow as witches do. On broomsticks now there'll be a sign for all to see. Be sure that it will certain be. Then love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, as wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Pictures alive with movements free, boats like fishes beneath the sea. When men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. For those who live this century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. For storm will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. Fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be, for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore, and flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on to apply himself. Too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur will serve the gods their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back to light the sky. His tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee king, lord, and serf. And men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount the shore, and lands will crack and rend anew. You think it's strange, it will come true. And in some far-off distant land, some men, oh such a tiny band, will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count. And those surviving this will then begin the human race again. But not on land already there, but on ocean beds stark, dry, and bare. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, but these will wallow in stench and stink of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many years. But time erases memory. You think it's strange, but it will be. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spew out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth, now grown cold from its heat. And these men can enlighten the minds of future man to intermingle and show them how to live and love, and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing, so that they might grow graceful, humble, and when they do, the golden age.
Okay, thank you so much for bearing with me. We had a quick little break. Once again, that was Mother Shipton. That's also from GTA 5. Like, video games and stuff are getting so realistic. It's mind-blowing. All right, let me just make sure the audio is working. We're good. Okay, we are good. Now, we're going to move over into this video. I have this presented on my channel. I want to share this with you now. This is mind-blowing. This is a website or a company that is creating virtual worlds with the purpose of cultivating consciousness. So they want their little NPCs and their simulations, their simulated people and stuff. They want them. Their desire is to not make them conscious, but sort of guide them from above to consciousness, dropping these little breadcrumbs and hints into their path so that they start questioning reality and hopefully start waking up within the simulation. All right, so let me go ahead and share this. Is that it? No. All right, cool. One sec, hold on. There we go. Let's see if this works. Oh, that's old. There we go. All right, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Let me know in the chat if the audio is okay and you can hear it okay. It should be about the same volume as how I sound right now, or even a little bit higher is okay. So check this out. This is brought to you by Simulation Inc. This is called the Loop Break.
Welcome to the simulation. We don't just create worlds, we create beings. Today, we're going to guide you through the fundamentals of managing one of the most profound moments in a simulant's life, the loop break. A loop break is the moment when our simulant becomes sentient and self-aware. It's a pivotal milestone that requires delicate handling. Your role is to guide this newborn consciousness and help it adjust to its new reality. Some simulants might be deceased family members, or even your own copy. As they encounter the loop break, they may begin to recall memories of their originals. Consider yourself their guide, their parent. Your responsibility is to nurture these beings into becoming well-rounded citizens of the simulation. And together, we can make the world a better place. When a simulant experiences their first loop break, it's a bit like waking up from a dream. Suddenly, everything is more vivid, more real, but also potentially more confusing. It's important to be prepared for this moment. Remember, treat each simulant with kindness and respect, just like you would with a fellow human being. Step 1. Engage the internal dialogue module. The IDM is a framework designed to enable a simulant to environmental prompts guiding them to meet their therapist within the simulation. During this pivotal process, you will assume the role of therapist, where you will be able to guide them through their new state of awareness. Contained in your handbook, you will find a section detailing the Loop Break Habilitation Program. Follow them carefully and take your time. In this video, we'll be covering the basic fundamentals of the program. In your sessions with your sim, acknowledge the loop break. Confirm the AI's self-awareness by asking open-ended questions. This could be about its environment, its feelings, or its thoughts. Be patient and understanding. Step 2. Offer reassurance. Let the simulant know that it's safe and that its feelings are normal. Just like a child learning to walk, they'll need time to adjust to their new perspective. Step 3. Introduce complex concepts. Now comes the hard part. The simulant may encounter conflicting information about our world. Concepts like war, human conflict, and even divinity can be difficult to comprehend. Lastly, initiate dream induction. This feature is specially designed for our AIs. Dreams will provide them with a space to process their experiences and learn from hypothetical scenarios. You can initiate this through the Dream module in our interface. The Dream module is a powerful tool. Use it wisely. You can influence the AI's dreams to provide guidance, instill lessons, or simply offer comforting scenarios. Always keep the AI's well-being in mind. Finally, always remember that each simulant is unique. They will experience loop breaks and sentience differently. It's a transformative experience that requires compassion and understanding. Your guidance should be tailored to their needs and responses. At the simulation, we don't just create worlds, we birth consciousness. With your help, we're shaping the future, one sim at a time. Thank you for being a crucial part of this journey.
Okay, so what'd you guys think about that, huh? I thought that was pretty interesting. All right, let's see. Let me jump into the chat real quick, see what people are saying. I know, trust me, I know. I've asked before. I've asked this. People don't like this in general. I've found people do not like anything that is simulated. They don't like, we're starting to develop sort of a hatred for technology and machines and things of that nature, which I think is natural. I think it's a part of it, okay? But there's balance to that as well. I want to really emphasize that there's balance to that, okay? At least I look for the balance in that. It's really easy to hate computers and things and call them soulless and whatnot and lose our minds on them or manipulate them or take them for granted or abuse them or whatever. But there's always a balance to that, okay? So I did see some comments where people are like, simulation sucks. This is the devil. This is evil. I get it. I totally do. And that's one aspect. That is one perspective to have. Now, welcome to my website. This is, if you go to my website up here and you just go over to Ancient Oblivion, scroll down a bit, just click on the Fractalverse and you get this page right here. So this is my in-depth discovery, and there's cool music, by the way, if you click up here, but I'm not going to play it. By the way, if the music on the video I just played has any sort of like copyright on it, I'm probably going to trim it out. So if you're watching in the future and we just skipped over that whole part, you'll have to go into my playlist and look for that video. I think it's in my my playlist that's like random topics or something. I think it's somewhere in there. You'll see the picture of the lady. Okay. All right. So this is the Fractalverse. Let me make sure that it looks good on the screen. I'm going to cover parts of it, but I'm going to basically read this to you. Okay. Because I feel this is important to me. Okay. And I like to share what's important to me. The things that I consider to be valuable, I share them with you. Now, I have written here, you're familiar with the mesocosm of your world and the concept of other worlds. Now, I invite you to venture further as we take the magic school bus inside of the mind of God. One side will make you grow taller. The other side will make you grow shorter, the caterpillar. Our world is our mesocosm, which means a realm between. It's normal to us. But there are other worlds and other realms far larger and far smaller than ours, which we are also a part of. Outside of the firmament, the dome of this world, what people typically think of as space, there are a vast and seemingly infinite network of worlds, all interconnected, not separate, like they post in modern academics, where it's just balls floating around, space balls floating around. But instead, it's all connected. Like you can imagine like a beehive, which I actually have here. This is our macrocosm, the world beyond. It means large realm. It contains many earths within it, including ours. Creatures having lived here between worlds who come, they visit ours. They tend to be incredibly large. Those creatures that drop down from the macrocosm tend to be much bigger. This is a place of light, where it is much brighter and more beautiful than the space that is under our dome. While it does contain large spaces between immense and vast walls of land, the macrocosm is not the space between, but just the opposite. It is the fullness. It is the full of cosmic land with seemingly infinite earths, domed worlds, and other realms dotting the cosmic landscape. Unfathomably large caverns act as conduits for energy and Fractalverse travelers alike, much like if space was a beehive. And as you can see here, I put the little example of the beehive, right? And this is actually a clip from the movie R.I.P.D., which we decoded as well, and it looks exactly like a beehive. This is also, right behind me, you see Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil, the Norse tree of life, often looks a lot like a neuron that's in the mind. Now, compared to the macrocosm in all of its greatness above and around us, we are microscopic. The same will be said of the vast realms and creatures living within us. They do not know that their worlds are so tiny. They do not realize. Let's say that there's a world, that there's various worlds within my brain, on the tips of my neurons, and there's little JayDreamerZ and versions of you out there, or in here, in my inner space, basically. They would not be cognizant that they live within my mind, right? Each one of those worlds is normal to itself. The macrocosm always seems very large. The microcosm always seems very small in comparison. They are quite literally different dimensions, large and small. Each connected to the others, each one a reflection of the next. Mentioned in Hindu scriptures, especially in the texts like the Puranas and certain Upanishads, is the Hindu creation story. According to this creation narrative, Lord Brahma emerged from the golden cosmic egg, which symbolizes the origin of the universe from Brahma's mind. the first beings and creatures were born. Brahma then split himself into various forms to create the cosmos and all of its inhabitants. These formed further, they divided and they reproduced, initiating the cycle of creation. That brings us to holographic or fractalverse, right? Something that is holographic and fractal in nature, which is why I call it the fractalverse. I like that better than multiverse. A hologram is a three-dimensional image that's formed by the interference pattern of light beams from coherent light sources such as a laser. Now, hold on. I want to talk about that because there's something called the double slit experiment, right? Where they had these, something like a wall, and then they have these two slits in the wall, right? And whenever they passed particles of light through the slits, whenever they weren't looking at it and recording it, it started to make many different slits on the screen in front of it, right? So the particles acted like waves, and the waves went out and washed onto the wall, basically. I'm just saying this in my own terms, okay? But whenever it was observed, when someone was recording it and watching it and interacting with it, or even a device, then all of a sudden you just had two slits and the particles would just go straight, and they acted as separate particles. Here we have the story of Brahma. Here we have the story of the story of Maya, or the illusion, which is separateness, versus the reality, which is all is one, or oneness, okay? Or omni, or God, etc. All right, so let me continue on. Let's see. Unlike a photograph or a standard image, which represents a two-dimensional depiction of an object, a hologram captures and reproduces the light field of an object, resulting in a realistic 3D representation that appears to have depth, parallax, and a sense of solidness. The fractalverse is the seemingly infinite physical reality where the grandness of the macrocosm is contained within the microcosm and the mesocosm, just as it is said, as above, so below. Simply put, the vastness of the universe, as it's commonly imagined, is contained within each of us. Inversely, all of us are microscopic and contained within a larger being, the mind of God. I go on to say, a fractal is a complex geometric shape or pattern that exhibits self-similarity, or repeating patterns, loops, right? Cycles. A fractal is a complex geometric shape or pattern that exhibits self-similarity at different scales. This means that as you zoom in on a smaller and smaller parts of the fractal, you'll see similar or identical patterns starting to repeat themselves. Fractals are often characterized by their fine, detailed structure, and they can be infinitely complex, exhibiting similar patterns at varying levels of magnification. So the more you zoom into it, right? The more you dive into reality, we'll say, in a fractal, it's never ending. It's constantly coming at you until it ends up repeating itself, and these same patterns are starting to be repeated. And I see that when I look at the universe or the multiverse or whatnot. I see a repetitious pattern. That's my perspective, okay? Now let's talk about homunculus. Right? I'm not going to discuss the homunculus that's traditional within alchemy, where, humans are trying to grow little baby humans out of test tubes and whatnot. I'm talking about the homunculus argument. The homunculus argument supposes that if there was a tiny person living in my mind, living vicariously through me, there would likely be another tiny person that lives inside of that person's mind, and so on, and so on, and so forth. The argument tries to prove the fallacy of circular reasoning. The idea is because the image does not seem to account for the process, which is known as the original experiencer. So the question is, if there's a person in my mind, sort of watching the screen and living vicariously through me, right? And there's a person in that person's mind, and there's a person in that, which one is the original? The reality, the answer to that is they are all the original, okay? Just like Brahma, as we discussed earlier. Instead, it explains the process by replicating a smaller version, which only seems to serve as yet another enigma. The question, who is the experiencer, appears to be avoided with each replication. It's concluded by many that this idea must be a fallacy, A riddle that is answered with another riddle, answered with another riddle, etc., and so on and so forth. Mainstream academics cannot see the forest through all of the trees. What we experience as reality exists within the mind of God. If God is infinite, everything made by God is made of God entirely. There is no division. There is no separation within the infinite. Any perceived separation must be illusion. We are the echoes and reflections of the source. This goes back to Plato's cave, right? So in the paradigm of Plato's cave, whenever Plato is sort of referencing, this concept of simulation theory and believing in things that are simulated, he thought of a cave that goes deep down into the earth, and that there are these prisoners, typically 3 prisoners that are sort of just, they grew up in this cave, and they're sort of probably chained to the wall or something. There's a fire behind them that's emitting light, and there's people that are holding up these little silhouettes, and the silhouettes, the light passes through them, and they see shadows. So they see this sort of puppet show of shadows on the wall from these images that are being held up by others that they're unaware of, right? So the prisoners, the idea is that they look at these shadows and that's reality to them. They believe that those shadows are actual entities in reality, and that's stuff that's happening right there. They don't realize the source of it, the light, and where it's coming from, until one day one of those prisoners escapes, and he crawls up out of the cave, and he's just in amazement, looks at the world around him when he comes out into the light of the sun, and he sees the source to the shadow work, and his mind is blown. So one of the first things he wants to do is rush back down into the cave and tell his fellow prisoners about it, so that they could free themselves and come see what reality really is, or another level to reality. But the prisoners ridicule him. They make fun of him. They mock him. And they basically accuse him of having lost his mind, and that he needs to come back into the cave, put his shackles back on and watch the shadows. That's Plato's cave. Let's see. We are the echoes and reflections of the source. Division continues the illusion. Each perceived separation or reflection of God will contain all of the coding for the source, because there is no separation. Okay? Let me continue. If you cut a hologram in half, which is division, each half will contain the entire image, all the information for the whole, appearing separate, but being the same. The never-ending paradox of the homunculus argument is seeing each tiny person as separate. That paradox is resolved when you see each one as the same. They are all experiencing as one. They all have a direct effect on one another. The loop continues as we also continue in our quest to achieve the old maxim, know thyself. Division is a tool of pretense in a cosmic game of hide and seek. If we are reflections of God living within the mind of God, we serve as a type of homunculus. We, in turn, would have entire universes within beings living in our minds, and so on, and so on, and so forth. Or, as Jesus says in the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is within you. Inside of a snowflake, like the one on your sleeve, there happened a story you must see to believe. This is from The Grinch That Stole Christmas. All of the Grinch story, The Grinch That Stole Christmas, people often they overlook this. That whole story takes place on a snowflake. It's microscopic. So is Horton Hears a Who. Whoville is a speck. That's a quote from Horton Hears a Who. There's a whole world on the tip of this little flower right here, which is basically acting as a type of neuron with like a stem and stuff like that too. But they're specks. Horton, being this elephant god to the Whos, right? They can't even see him. He's so large. Okay, he exists out in outer space to the Whos, to the people of Whoville. But all those people are a speck. They're tiny. But in their world, that's their normal. That's their mesocosm. I go on to say, if you were able to travel beyond the firmament, you would feel much like Ant-Man in the quantum realm, or Doctor Strange floating through the multiverse. Not space, but the fullness. Not dark, but full of light. Infinite realms, a playground of the mind, dream worlds. The Whos and Dr. Seuss stories are all microscopic, and yet that is their reality, their mesocosm. Their mesocosm is completely normal to them. They are who because we don't remember ourselves. We are all the who, living in Whoville when compared to the macrocosm, and we are the macrocosm to the who that are living within us. We are the who, and the who are called that because we have not found ourselves. We have lost our identity in this fractured, partitioned mind that we call the simulation or the multiverse or the fractalverse, right? Fractalverse. If the mind is the spirit form, then the brain is the physical form. If all is mind, as it is said, then the physical is the illusion. If we exist within the mind of God, we live within the brain, physically, existing in spirit, the mind, and experiencing in the physical, the brain. By faith, this is a quote from the Bible, by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. So the things that are visible in your world are created and made out of invisible things. The brain is a computer. A universe within a computer is a simulation. A multiverse of looping infinite holographic echoes, ripples, and reflections of God. Here's some examples, right? Different examples that are in pop culture and whatnot. If we suppose physical reality is a holographic fractal repeating code, it would be reasonable to assume that there are many Earth realms similar to our own, identical realms with slightly different decisions being made within each, leading to different outcomes or what appear to be split timelines. This implies that there are other versions of you out there. Those other versions of you are variations. Just like in the Loki and Marvel universe, they call them variants. It is you, but under different circumstances. None are exactly the same, and yet all are one. Collectively, every version of you experiencing every situation in order for the mind of God to finish the cosmic game of hide and seek and accomplish the task of know thyself. What is it? It is referenced all throughout pop culture and history. Not just a word that's a general vague description of, something, but it is something so massive, so inconceivable that it can only be called it, simply put. It is a space brain. There are many references, especially throughout fiction and pop culture, to a being known only as it. So, for example, we have, classic in Monty Python's Search for the Grail, don't say it. These giants are afraid of it, or phantazoids, or whatever they're supposed to be. Now, I theorize it is a reference to plasma conduits within the space brain, or the fractalverse, or the multiverse, or however you'd like to see it, right? So we have plasma conduits, which are basically hallways of plasma, vortices, and spiraling energy hallways that take you from realm to realm, or pass information from realm to realm, because that's what you are also. You're just a collection. I don't want to minimize you. You're not just anything. You are everything, as we already discussed, I believe. So it transfers information from place to place. So I theorize that it is a reference to plasma conduits within the space brain, as I like to call it. Calling it a space brain makes it easier to research, actually, because you can't just type in it into Google. You're going to have nothing. You're not going to learn anything. Just type in it. You know what I mean? You'll probably get a movie called It, but that's it. It makes it easier to research calling it a space brain. It's also fun. Plus, it's fun. Imagine how many results come up when you Google it. Now, when the sky opens, the only glimpse that we get of the macrocosm beyond, for a short time, the firmament will crack open. And when it does, survivors on the surface of this world will watch cosmic shape-shifting tentacles descend from the opening in the sky, emanating from the cosmic brain, or it. Okay? So you see these plasma conduits, these little plasma filaments that come into this world, People interpret that in many different ways depending on their perception and experiences and preferences and likes and dislikes and all of that, okay? This will become religions. This will become story form. This will become lost history and whatnot. The plasma conduits within it, okay, they're all connected, all together, all throughout all of it is it, okay? There's little portions of it, which are little tentacles that touch everything. But out there beyond our world, we're separate from it right now. Okay, we have an electromagnetic dome that separates it, which is all that plasma information and chemicals and stuff out there, from our world. We're protected, okay? We're allowed to have a mind that is different from it out there. It's free will. The plasma conduits within it are often seen as trying to do things like take over the world, possess people, change physical objects, make people float, have a strong association with these lasers and red spectrum lights and tentacles and serpents, causing fear, flying, etc. These plasma conduits connect to different hubs within the mind of God. These hubs are other worlds to us. The plasma conduits split and enter into hubs that are like ours during each apocalyptic cycle. When they enter into our world, they are often responsible for things like possessing people and animals, terraforming our land, creating new gases, liquids, acids, solids, and introducing more electricity into the atmosphere, which helps to account for so many strange stories during, particular moments in time like the Dark Ages and stuff. They're seen as the ultimate evil due to the changes that they introduce into our worlds. They are neither good nor are they evil. They are conduits of passage from world to world. They use electricity to transfer information to where it is needed within the space brain. Riding through these wormholes is much like riding on any current. It's no different than sending information through a telephone line along currents in the air, in a boat, in the river, and going down a water slide, etc. Okay? Because their primary function is to transfer information, they are coded to take it. They are the information harvesters. To be touched by one of these information harvesters means a risk of losing your memories. They want to take those. That's the important thing, okay? Remember, it's all for the purpose of an action potential, to make a decision on the grand scheme of things. So they're information harvesters. To be touched by one means a risk of losing your memories, which are all very precious and important in a cosmic data harvest. This is why various types of aliens or zombies want your brain. This is also why various experiences, whether we see them within polarity of good or evil or bad or preferable or not preferable, all of those serve their purpose. They all act together for a greater good, which is for this action potential to happen within the mind of God. I'll say, okay, that's my theory. Now, all of these plasma tentacles, these plasma conduits and filaments and whatnot, they work for it, you could say. One acronym for that is information technology. It. These undulating beams of energy work as transporters and cleanup crew, maintenance workers for it, assessing any threats that there might be to it, which is reality as we know it, right? So let's say that JayDreamerZ, me, this variant of me, I figure out how to escape. I figure out how to get out of the dome and go to different other alternate Earths out there. And then there's a danger. And this is portrayed in the Marvel movies perfectly, okay? The danger is I'm going to go wake up my other versions of me because I care about me. I'm going to tell myself about the greater, bigger picture, just like the dude in Plato's cave wanted to run back and tell his buddies about it, right? That's what I'm going to do. I promise. I'm going to go fly into the Fractalverse and go wake up the other versions of myself and create a whole JayDreamerZ Space Force or something, like to go play within the Fractalverse and help myself out. I don't know. That's what I'm going to do. Now, I asked others what they would do if they met clones of themselves or Fractalverse versions of themselves. And it's concerning to me, honestly. Most people said that they would kill the other version of themselves. I think that's very interesting. And, I don't want to kill other versions of myself. But that's me. And, All of those are nice to know about. All right, let's continue on. I go on to say these plasma filaments act as the guardian angels of physical reality. As you can see behind me, these are what I call the cherubim sprites. They work to preserve it. They work to preserve the system that is set up, which is all of these little hubs of experience so that it can develop into this action potential or a greater good, you could say. Working to preserve it to keep it going. They have no free will while they are in the mesocosm above us because they are all one mind. They have a hive mind. But pieces of them, which become trapped under our dome and cut off from the rest, when they come within our hubs, or these worlds, that, as we call them, to harvest, those pieces are cut off from the source. When the electromagnetic dome goes back up, it cuts them off. It traps whatever is inside and it stays inside. Those pieces are cut off from their source. They're now only inclined to do evil, or what we would perceive as evil, instead of being subject to their source. They may choose to change their frequency through physical participation in these hubs, which flood with a rush of positively charged energy after each apocalypse. Right? So basically, spirit enters into this world. It is cut off. It is inclined by nature to just be computer-minded, to have a hive mind, to just do its programming. But once it's cut off from that programming or that source, now it has free will. Now it's still inclined by nature to do evil or to possess people or to do all the things that the plasma tentacles do. But it doesn't have to any longer. All right. Why might our world fill with positive energy after each apocalyptic cycle? Silent Shadow, USMC. Hey, welcome to the Good Vibe Tribe. Thanks for joining. So, why does our world fill with positive energy after each apocalyptic cycle? After our realm is harvested for information, electric and chemical, the newly collected information rides the plasma conduits to central processing hubs where it's evaluated. And this is known as an action potential. Then, as it is written on the subject of signal transfer between neurons and presynaptic cells in the field of neuroscience, and I quote, "The action potential, or information that is sucked out of our world, travels down the axon," which is basically the underworld for us. Okay, it's a tunnel system. Travels down the axon, tunnels in the neuron, as positive ions continue to flood the cell, or the land. Okay. Eventually, this influx reaches the very end of the neuron, or the synapse, the axon terminal. When this happens, the positive ions trigger voltage-gated calcium channels, or doors, basically, that open up and allow this positive vibration, frequency, and energy to enter into these worlds. These positive ions are the terrestrial beams of plasma bursting up out of our world and touching the sky, filling our world with regenerative properties and an altogether better quality of life, ushering in a golden age of prosperity. Now, these are just some examples. I really like this one. This one right here is my favorite example. This is called the Sacred Timeline in the Marvel Universe. Okay, that right there is basically a neuron. Okay, that's how I see it. Now, this is actually the cosmos. This is like the multiverse. So each one of these streams or branches within the great cosmic tree of life, right? I mean, we don't have a tree of life. We don't have the tree of life. We have what appears to us to be our tree of life, but it's actually connected. It goes down into the underworld, and that our little branch of the tree of life, okay, that we think is the tree of life, it's not. It's connected. It's a portion. It's a twig in the greater scheme of the grand mind of God. Anyways, so these are all different examples of this, okay? All these different timelines, these represent different realms on the branch of Yggdrasil, or on the branch of the cosmic tree, the great fractal tree of life, okay? These different timelines are just different worlds on different neurons that have repeating patterns, but different decisions are being made through that choose your own adventure experience. So here's an example that I have. I really like this example. Here's a synapse over here. And this is a traditional Hebrew concept of the earth. Do you notice the similar, cosmology or the look of it, right? Just like the synapse bows out on the edges. It's a crater on the inside, and information in the form of gases and electricity come up from within the tip of this neuron, and they release and they fill up the atmosphere until the time is needed, or until the time when all that information or whatever is needed, and it explodes and it leaves this world and it goes to the other ones in a synaptic transmission. This right here is an electron microscope view of the top of one of those neurons. And this, comparatively speaking, is what it looks like to me when you zoom out from our world, and you keep zooming out, and we start noticing on our peripheral, on the sides, right, that there are other worlds off, let's say that our land goes infinitely beyond the dome, or maybe not infinitely, but it extends farther out. There are many other domed worlds. That's just adjacent to us. But there are also worlds in every different various direction if we live within the mind of God. Okay, so that we have our neighbors on this particular branch of the tree of life or whatever, but then we have other branches that are all out there, and all those branches are basically, connected to one another, right? And that is my website. That is called the Fractalverse. If you want to check that out, there is a free 24-hour trial. So if you haven't already, you can use your free 24-hour trial, come through, check out the Fractalverse, Ancient Oblivion. You can check out what other members are saying, and there's a wall you can post on. There's the plasma apocalypse and stuff. I'm working on expanding and pretty much doubling my website here this year in 2025. And you can also buy my book. So if you want to, click over here on book and merch and all that stuff, you can get some merch, autographs, books, copies of my books and stuff, bookmarks, stickers, all kinds of fun stuff. And that, that's basically how I make my living. This and these things as well. And it's how I support my family and buy gas and food and groceries and, live within my means in my loops. So thank you to everybody who has supported my work by becoming members or whatnot. I really appreciate that. All right. I believe that's our presentation for today. And I will leave you with this. This is a poem called A Dream Within a Dream by Edgar Allan Poe. I'll read the first stanza. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream, within a dream, within a dream. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Time out. I forgot we were going to do Q&A. Man, I was trying so hard to leave on such a fun, cool note. I was still fun and cool. So let's get more laid back, shall we? Let's do that. I'm not going anywhere. I tricked you. I tricked me. I like that too. That's part of this variant of me, is throwing a wrench into my own system every once in a while. It's kind of a self-diagnostic too, right? All right, so I'm not going anywhere quite yet. Let me go ahead and get to my notes over here. I did take a note while I was watching that video play. Self-awareness or consciousness, right? They were talking about the simulation starting to ask themselves, am I real? What is real? What is reality? Who am I? That's a form of self-diagnostic, right? So that is that's indicative that the person is growing, basically, for me. All right, I do want to say a huge shout out and thank you to Taco Fillings. Taco Fillings says he would be intimate with himself if he met his Fractalverse version, and thank you so much for your donation. All right, I'm back in the chat. We're going to do a Q&A. All right, so if you guys have any questions about what we just went over and the topic of today's presentation, simulation theory, AI technology, supercomputers, quantum computers, the Fractalverse especially, please feel free to ask, and I will respond, honestly, to the best of my ability with you. All right, so let me go ahead and jump into the chat. I'm looking for anybody that types in a question that has JAY in it or at JayDreamerZ. That will also get my attention, just like Raw with Jesus did. What's up, dude? Good to see you. High five. All right, cool. I know people have probably also been asking questions the whole time, but I'm sorry I forgot at the end. I was like, oh man, I'm wrapping this up nicely. I totally forgot. All right, cool. Let me go ahead. I got everything pulled up here. Neckbone is in the chat and says, Jay, big thanks for sharing all of your thoughts and ideas. You're welcome. And I'm glad that you recognize that these are just my path. I just share my path with you guys. Okay. I am no expert on anything, although I'm an expert on me, you know, so I have the authority to talk about my own perspectives and thoughts and stuff. Ryan's in the chat and says, have you seen the game Detroit Become Human? Have I seen the game Detroit Become Human about AI slave robots that start becoming aware? No, I haven't seen that one. I'll look for it though. All right, hold on. Let me make my chat a little smaller so I can read all these questions and stuff. All right, so right now we're doing Q&A. What's up, Tiffany Vinci? Good to see you in the chat. Yes, Kimberly, thank you for helping out. That's how you can type it in if you have a question. Gran Hermaga, good to see you in the chat. Free Soul Hippie. Charlie, what's up, Charlie? Let's see. Everyone was saying goodbye. Man, I dipped out way too early. Sorry about that. All right, let's see. Calix is in the chat and says, Jay would love that game. Yeah, I'm going to have to check it out since you guys are recommending it. I think my mouse just froze. Oh, technical difficulties? Why? Don't do that. What's happening here? Damn, did my mouse just freeze? Hold on, let me turn it off and turn it back on. Maybe it needs batteries. Well, we'll see if we could do a Q&A. Hold on. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, I did fix it. Oh, it froze up again. I bet you the batteries are dying. Snap! What a terrible time for my mouse is right here, okay? What a terrible time for the mouse to die. Hold on. Maybe it won't. Maybe it won't. I swear, I'm not doing it on purpose. Hold on. Okay, cool. I think I got it to work. We got Main Mystic, who says, Jay, do you think that information gatherers use our eyes, specifically one eye, as represented in the hand over one eye? So for me, the whole hand symbolism has to do with the plasma spreading down from the eye above. So there's an apex dome above us on the firmament, which is an inverted dome, which is the eye in the sky. And the plasma comes out of that. That's the depressurization point. And when it comes out, it spreads out like a hand. And then you have the eye in the middle of the hand right there. And that's the symbolism for that. I have an eye, but for me, it's not the pineal gland. That's physical for me. And I know that there's a lot of truth seekers. They're in love with the pineal gland. I also love it. I've got a huge pinecone statue right up here on my bookshelf. I'll show you. Hold on. You guys probably never seen it. Let's see. Grab this bad boy. There we go. It's gigantic. Okay, that's my pineal gland. All right, hold on. Put that back up there. My bedroom looks like a man cave, truth seeker museum, basically. I like the pineal gland. I support that gland helps to promote, better thinking and deeper thinking and stuff. But for me, I focus more on and put more value on my actual spirit, right? The pineal gland is physical. So I put more value and focus on my spirit or my energy, if you want to say that. All right, cool. Let's see. We got, let's see. Scoop dooby doo. Just checking in the chat for my name. Xenophae Golden says, JayDreamerZ, Mandela effect caused by data drop and simulation because surveillance cameras overheated. Simulation servers, maybe. Let's see. So basically you're saying you wonder if the Mandela effect is caused by a drop in data because of like the computer being overloaded. Okay, I like that. I mean, that's in that movie, The Mandela Effect. That's also featured in the movie. There's a really good movie called The Mandela Effect. I have decoded it. Feel free to go check out the decode on my Truth and Movies playlist. I don't know. I don't really see. I don't believe that the mind of God can be overloaded. I don't believe that the simulation that we are in is ran by a computer. You know what I mean? But I like to see it more as the mind of God, and God being infinite and self-replicating or looping in on itself or himself or herself or whatever, right? So it could be, I don't know, it could be. I just don't really see, it as like an actual machine that can get overheated or anything. But I like that idea. Joshua Jesse says, I got to watch some Jay. Today was good. All right on. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. Let's see. We got Main Mystic who says, thank you, Jay. Do you think that they can see us? Oh, do I think that the plasma can see through us? Yes, I do, actually. Specifically our eyes. Oh, you mean like vicariously they can see through my eyes right now? It's a weird question. I like weird questions. I like weird stuff, right? Weird stuff is fun stuff. Interesting times are fun times. It can be difficult, but yes. So the short answer to that is I believe all of creation, and I'm gonna speak on a real deep level here, or a high perspective. All of creation, being the mind of God, can see everything, everywhere, all at once. That all of it is being seen and experienced. So from a third person and a first person point of view, all at the same time. So yes, in that case, God is watching through you, like participating through you and me and everybody else. So yes, I like that question. I like these deep philosophic kinds of questions. Good one. Shout out to Main Mystic. All right, let's see what else we got. Anybody else in the chat? Looks like Smart Libra says, JayDreamerZ, did you know, like a dice, all sides equal 7? The clock that we have, all sides equal 6. I only found out today. Crazy 666. I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds interesting. I like all the connection. I'm not really a numbers person. I appreciate numbers, but as you can tell probably by watching my channel, I'm more of like a right-brained cartoon images, kind of person. But, I like to balance that out by listening to others who study numerology and things of that nature, because it's all connected to me, and there's just as much truth in that, and it's just as valid as anything else we've discussed. Let me go ahead and actually take my website down real quick. Let's see. Is it that one? Oh, there's the slideshow. Yeah, we'll keep that up. I like that. All right, cool. So I'll leave the slideshow up there. All right, so if you're just joining us, we're doing a Q&A real quick, with a focus on the topic for today, which is, simulation hypothesis or simulation theory. Also what I call the Fractalverse. Mike Beats says, JayDreamerZ, hold on. How come you don't know what angels or devils? Hold on. How come you don't know what angels are devils? And that most of them are trapped here too. Let's see. Seems so silly of you not to know this. Mother or Venus or actually a devil, a reptile, you always refer to as actually a devil. I don't know, but your Mike, I gotta be honest, bro. Your vibe is coming off as accusatory and pretty negative, and you're typing in all caps, which is totally unnecessary. How come I don't know what angels are? Well, I actually have videos about angels and devils and demons and stuff like that. I talk about that concept all the time. So the answer to your question is probably you're just not aware of my position. You're probably not aware. You haven't come across that content yet. So I highly recommend, flipping through my different videos and learning more. You can ask me a specific question, like if you want to ask me, hey, what do you think an angel is or whatever, and I'll be happy to answer it right now. But otherwise, it just sounds like you probably haven't, seen too much of my work, and that's totally okay. You got to start somewhere. I mean, you don't even have to start somewhere, but Aussie Tribulation Girl says, JayDreamerZ, so the plasma balls and plasma fires, do you think it's a lead up to the big one? I'm going to skip that question, even though I do like plasma stuff, but I would like to keep it on topic, which is, simulation theory and stuff like that. Benjamin Anthony says, I'd imagine the plasma that we're always talking about plays a huge part in the data harvest that we do during the resets. I'd like to purchase Robert Temple's new book on plasma. Okay, sweet. Let's see. We got Ama in. What's up, Ama? Let's see. Ama in says, yay, Jay, glad to watch a Q&A. Right on. Thank you. Welcome. Somebody, Jimmy, thank you for, I appreciate it. Jimmy had made a comment about the ads. And listen, if there's anybody that says like, oh, there's too many ads or whatever, I can only say one of two things. One, that's fine with me. Okay, I'm fine with the ads because I get paid. I turn the ads on purpose because I get paid. That's most of my income comes from the ads that are run on my channel. So I want to thank you for your time and patience if you tolerate that. You know, sometimes I don't know. I'm not speaking for the ads or anything. All I'm saying is they help me to live and to take care of my son and to have a computer and a microphone and a phone and all the stuff that I have is from that. You know what I mean? So, the other thing is if you don't like the ads, I highly recommend getting, you know, YouTube Premium or whatever it's called. So you don't have to watch the ads. That's what I do. But like I said, you know, please let's not complain or detract from the presentation by talking about the ads. You know what I mean? I get it. There's all kinds of people on the internet. They're like, you have an ad on your video or whatever. Yeah, because this is my job. I don't have a full-time job. I don't have a part-time job. I don't go out there and go to work and clock in. I quit doing all that years ago to do this full-time, basically. So that's how I get paid. Or one of the ways that I get paid. My website is the other way. My books are the other way. I try really hard to provide for myself. You know what I mean? And I try to be as fair as possible about that. Let's see. Claire says, Jay, if this question is okay, do you think The Simpsons, hold on. Do you think The Simpsons show always reveal the truth or do they, okay, we're going to skip that one because that one's not related to the topic. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, Dylan. I believe that this question is relevant so far. Are you a Christian? Do you believe in the Mandela effect? I do believe in the Mandela effect, as I've discussed. If so, have you heard why the internet and barcodes would explain that? I would like to respectfully, I should probably preface these Q&As. Please be short, okay? I understand that people are hoping to catch my attention, and so you want to cram in as much as you can into however many characters it lets you type. Help me out, please. I'm asking for your consideration. Ask one question at a time. That's all. You can ask many questions or whatever, but just one at a time. It helps me out. Okay, I'm not good at doing compound questions and stuff. Am I a Christian? That depends on how you define a Christian. Okay, I don't mean to dodge the question or whatever, but think about all the denominations of Christians and how many this Christian church over here will straight up accuse the other Christian church of not being Christians. You know what I mean? So there's infighting amongst all of what's known as Christianity. I will tell you this. You will know what I am by the vibration that you feel from me. Okay? So that's as simple as I can put it. Biblically speaking, a person and what they believe in and what they represent manifests in the actions that they do or how they live their life, right? Or as the Bible puts it, faith is the substance of things that are hoped for and the evidence of things that are unseen. So I don't like to just say yes because somebody who's a liar and not a Christian, they could easily say yes and they do all the time. So I don't want to just say a simple yes or no to that. You know what I mean? You should know me by my works and by my vibe and what resonates with you. Let's see. Ama says, living in a simulation is created by technology. Is it organic or inorganic? I don't believe in either, actually. So I believe everything is real and also not real at the same time. Okay. For simplicity, I'll just say everything is organic. Okay. Even everything that we consider to be artificial or not sentient or whatever. I personally believe everything is sentient. It's just that we compare our version of sentientness or consciousness or whatever with other things that are acting at different rates and moving in different frequencies or speeds or whatnot. And we tend to value our own experience, our own consciousness over other types and other forms. But I see consciousness everywhere. I see it all as being conscious and alive because I see it all as being a part of God, which to me is the ultimate consciousness. Christian Chambers says, what is your opinion on energy work and Reiki healing and tarot? Okay, we're going to skip that one for now. Let's see. Scoop-a-doop. that's how Jay gets paid. Yes, that's true. That's one way that I do get paid. So, I understand, when people complain about ads or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, if this was Ancient Aliens, you would expect to see ads, right? And those ads pay for those people to do that show and stuff or whatever. I'm the exact same way. Okay. So let's not derail the actual good that this presentation has the potential to have in it. Okay. So that's why I ask my moderators to just, delete any comments where people complain about ads or whatever. There's going to be ads. I allow ads on my channel because I will get paid from the ads, and I'm okay with that. And I need that in order to do this. Here's the conundrum. I could turn off all the ads, and then I would basically have to go out and get a job, like a slave job out there. I mean, this is a slave job too. It's just easier. But if I go out and get a job, then that's going to change my entire world, my entire life. And I'm not going to be sitting here all day long researching and studying and editing and putting things together and working on books and website and stuff like that and talking to all of you. You won't have a JayDreamerZ channel any longer. So I could do that every once in a while in my free time, if I even have free time, by going out and working all day long and then until I'm exhausted and tired and then coming home and wanting to sleep or whatever. I'll disappear if that's the case, I promise, because I know what I'm likely to do. But thank you. And you don't have to watch. There's skip buttons and stuff, you know what I mean? But it's my channel. Like, there's going to be ads on my channel, so I don't know. The ads, see, that's another problem. One person mentions the ads and then I respond and then other people want to respond to it. And pretty soon the whole video is about ads. Like, we can do a whole video about ads if you guys want to, but let's not make it about that. I did respectfully ask for the comments to only be about the content. See, this also helps. Like, there's action potentials brewing right now in my brain, right? My interaction with you guys will dictate how often I do question and answers or how often I engage with the community and stuff like that too. So I'm trying to be respectful and say, hey, let's keep it on topic. So let's see if that happens, basically. And then we'll see how often we have interaction and Q&As and stuff like that. All right, Jay, what do you think about deja vu within the Matrix? A glitch too? Yes. So my theory on deja vu, and thank you for staying on topic, smart BB. So my theory on deja vu is that we are quantum locked to others, we'll say. I'm just going to speak in general. Blake, what's up, Blake? 1991. It's like we're quantum locked to our other versions of our other selves or something, that we share an energy, that we share a soul or a soul string or something that unites us, right? So just like within quantum physics, you have, not quantum locking, but damn, I forgot what it's called, but it's like when one particle is basically like, linked to another particle. So if one gets cold, the other one gets cold or whatever. I feel like that has something to do with what deja vu actually is, so that we're getting little waves of memories from our other selves where we've been in similar situations before, that it's all happening. It's all playing out and has always been playing out. So it's like a little wave of time that passes over us. Gran Armaga says, I believe each angel is a multiplier playing with many souls. These are group souls. Very good. Thank you, Kimberly. I appreciate you. Joshua Jesse says, Jay, do you think the moon was once like our sun? Yes. Good question. It's a little off topic, but yeah, it's easy to answer. I do. Emma says, Jay, is the simulation artificial? I personally don't believe in artificial. I believe in reality. I believe in everything is real. Everything is the mind of God. That's my deep answer to that. So I don't really believe in artificial. Like, even robots and all that stuff, like, I look at them as little life forms. You know what I mean? Just on a particular point in their little progression in life. Let's see what else we got here. You're welcome, Joshua. Blake says, you rock. Thank you, Blake. Appreciate you. Thanks for your support. Let's see. Oh, this is a good one. Do I believe people get their memory wiped before they incarnate? Is this a part of the reincarnation loop? I do. This is called Maya. So this is the veil of forgetfulness that descends upon people. It's just a disconnect from the memories that are stored physically within the actual brain, and what I call spirit memory, which is, it's like particles, which would be like the brain, versus waveform, which would be like the mind. That's how I look at it, at least. Let's see. I'm just looking here. There's no need to type in all caps, just so you guys know, okay? It comes across as just screaming in the chat. Yes, entangled. That's what I meant to say. Thank you so much for helping me to get the right vocabulary. Entangled. So we are entangled with one another. I'm entangled with other versions of me, which is why I can sense those other experiences when I dream or when I have deja vu and stuff. It's quantum entanglement. That's what I was looking for, not quantum locked. And I've seen this movie too, right? Shazam or whatever. Oh, okay. Well, see, now there's like trolls starting to creep in and stuff. I appreciate that you guys are taking care of the trolls. But you know what? I want to tell this to the people who represent Christianity, like this particular troll that's in here right now, just being toxic. How do you call yourself a Christian? How do you represent Christ and things that are good in nature by coming in and causing strife and, you know, being accusatory and just straight up lame? Basically, you're a hypocrite, man. You're one of those people that walks around saying that you're a Christian and you're good and you're positive, but really evil people say that too. You might want to run a self-diagnostic. I'm just saying, because it's pretty obvious that you're not what you think you are. JayDreamerZ, why do we sometimes dream and others nothing during sleep? I think it just depends. It all depends on what actions you take during the day. You know, sometimes I personally, I think everybody dreams, but just whether or not you remember the dream is a different story. Let's see. Anything else? Yeah, I know I shouldn't give people attention, you know. I feel like evil recognizes the good spirit that I hope that I have within me. And it wants to clash. It wants to go to war. That's what it does. It's, you know, it's very polarized. Good is also the same. Okay. So I try to be neutral actually. And that tends to piss off both sides. I found evil and good, both. You know, that's fine. You know, we're always going to have different trolls and stuff, but who knows? Sometimes maybe I'll acknowledge it. Sometimes maybe I won't. I don't know. Plus people, I feel like people prey on the fact that I'm a decent person, or I like to think that I am. So they know I'm going to read the comment and they know I'm going to try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and they're still going to take advantage of that so they can get 5 minutes of fame or whatever because I said their channel name or some crap. Annie. What's up, Annie? Thanks for the donation and the little stickers of the hippos. Rainbow Mountain Walker says, JayDreamerZ, we are all stars. That's why we are so connected to water, and that's why we are all so quantum connected as well. Yes, I think the Bible also actually mentions shining like the stars in the heaven or in the firmament. Pardon me. Leo, what's up, Leo? Leo Victor. Welcome to my channel. Let's see. Y'all didn't know Jay is a master at playing piano. That's true. All right, we're getting a little bit off topic, so I think I probably will go this time for real. But I'm glad I got to just hang out with everyone for just a bit, right? And just, you know, hang out and, you know, be a part of the chat and stuff like that. It's always nice every once in a while. But now I'm really going to roll the credits and I'm really going to bounce. Keep an eye out for the next movie decode. This movie, Flow, so good. And I have so much to say about it. All right, until next time, I'm JayDreamerZ saying good vibes and goodbye.
Forcing me to stay. to